Let me know. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So glad you're doing this, Mom.
Girl. Hey, I've gotten so much pushback. I've thought about resigning.
From your.
You're gonna let you know.
Uh-oh.
Let me know. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi. Welcome to the October meeting of the Library Advisory Board. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. This is a volunteer committee, and so this is taking on an energy. And so I really appreciate everybody being here. This is pretty good of our community. Just for a little bit of an, not an icebreaker, but just a little bit to find out more about each other. Has anybody read a good book that they want to tell us about?
I love this speaking.
Sonia, you had an expression. Did you?
I'll share.
Okay.
So I'm reading a book called Accountable by Dr. Slater. It's a nonfiction book from the children's the teen collection. And she wrote an earlier book called The 57 Bus, which was an absolutely amazing examination of a very difficult civil rights case in the Bay Area. And she's gone back to that general theme with this. It's called Accountable because it is about a school where there was a extremely racist and inflammatory Instagram account that was that led to major legal action on behalf of the victims and the people who were targeted by that account. But she does such an amazing job of really pulling it apart and examining kind of the implications and the social issues and the impacts, and interviews both people who were involved in creating the account and people who were impacted by it, and administrators who had to work through what to do. She's a tremendous journalist, and she just writes like with few words. She can just devastate you. It's an excellent book.
Would you say
I would
the title
recommend it
again?
for any age of person, even though it is targeted teens. Accountable.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's kind of a YA book.
Yeah, it's YA nonfiction. I highly recommend the 57 Bus as well. They're both
57.
tremendously well written books.
Welcome, Matt.
Thanks.
Or do you like Matthew or Matt?
Man.
Matthew. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just realized, I just checked this book out recently at the library called Dreamtown. I heard it reviewed on NPR, and it's a really interesting story of a woman who grew up in Ohio and talks about her community, which was one of the first integrated communities in the 1950s and 60s, and how it impacted education and income in that area, and kind of having folks kind of reconsider the impacts of integration and what it really meant, what it really meant to the community. Really good book, Dreamtown.
My mother is from Chicago.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I'm reading a book called 50 Years Ms. Magazine, and it's a big book, and it's all about Ms. Magazine, started in 1972. And I love it because I was kind of part of that feminist revolution, and it's got like the first cover of the first Ms. Magazine, which was actually stuck into the New Yorker, I believe it was, and it was just instantly like it flew off the shelves, and so it's fun to read. Anybody else? Okay. So let's go to the approval of minutes. If you've had a chance to look at them, I will entertain and ask them.
I just wanted to ask, when I brought up the question of our meeting in person versus remote, I thought it was more as a trying to solicit what people wanted to do rather than recommending that we meet. And the minutes make it me feel like I came down heavy on meeting in person, and so if that was everybody's sense, then I guess they should stay the way they are, but if not, then, I'd like it more to say that.
I used what was used, like I used the verbiage that was used similarly to the verbiage that you used at the meeting.
I can believe you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it coming from.
And I guess when I had to leave early, so, and just to clarify, when I had left, I thought the idea was we needed to go check with city council in terms of whether or not we could do this. And that's why I thought the October meeting was kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I did follow through right after the meeting. I received a response saying that it was up to the board. It could be, they had to be hybrid options and just the public open to the public. Which is why I work here, because it's more accessible to the public.
Oh, I see.
And we're still hybrid because we're live streaming on YouTube.
Okay, so it could take effect immediately then. Okay, thank you.
We did vote on it,
Mhm.
and we did have a forum, and, was anyone under the impression that they could not vote against it?
No,
I didn't think we did.
No.
All right,
So are you okay with that? Is it-
No, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
So I need a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All right, all those in favor of approving the motion, raise your hand. Great. Okay, I would like, without objection, to move Kate's presentation up under the teen advisory board, so that she's a very busy person and she's a very wonderful person, but she might not want to sit and listen to our meeting, as exciting as it is. The other thing I would like to add, under information items, is the testimony to city council that our great previous chair, Francine, did. So I'm gonna put that under, well, now it will be the city library's report. Is there any objection to that? Okay, teen advisory person, I assume that's you. All right. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Diana Baird. I'm a senior and I go to the office of Rector. The teen advisory board elections were in September and the co-chairs for 2023 to 2024 are me and one. I don't know how to see her. Hubert. And we are hoping that both of us can attend the next meeting together. Sorry, I wanted to be co-chair because I enjoy helping the community and I love town and I'm sad that it's not last year, but I really wanted to be able to do a bit more this year with, some of my ideas and helping out with that. So, that's kind of why I ran, and I guess the biggest thing I'm hoping to accomplish is probably, talking to more about things like with, sorry, I'm blinking. Lauren and I both think that it'd be really fun to get a chance to send emails or letters and things out to Oregon authors and have presentations and stuff like that from them. Because I guess you don't see authors from Oregon very often when you see like famous and popular books. So we're hoping to kind of get that going. It's really fun. We've been working on planning for our annual haunted house project. We'll be building the scenes from October 21st to October 27th. And then we open the room so visitors from 1 to 3 p.m. on Saturday, October 28th. And we also came up with an idea for a new teen program that started last week, which is Study with Buddies. It's a weekly Wednesday afternoon homework hangout for teens. And it's quite in the teensy room with lo-fi music. And over hot chocolate, tea, or apple cider, and little snacks for anyone wants to jump around like that.
Great, thank you so much. You're always welcome to come and talk to us, and we love to hear about the teens because they're our future. And I know that the haunted house is a huge draw for the library, so that is very, very cool. And by doing that, one of your goals was to, reach out to the community. So there you go. You already got one of them down. Check it out. Any questions?
No, just congratulations on
Yeah.
your selection. Very excited.
Anything else? Okay, Kate, you're on.
Right. So I'm Kate Van Emerson. I'm the Executive Director of the Salem Public Library Foundation. And every year I come to lab and explain a little bit about what the foundation has been doing for the year, and also to talk about our program called Salem Reads. So this is our 8th season of Salem Reads. Sonia is the program committee chair. And what the process is that in December, we have a committee that reads a bunch of books. That committee decides, well, we haven't done this in a while, or we haven't covered this genre, or so we kind of pick a range of what we'd like to pick. There's criteria about how long the books are, the reading level of them. The books have to be published in Spanish, so that we can offer Spanish and English. And then we get together and start creating a program. And so this year, I can pass this out to everybody. This is the event schedule from last year. I don't have the printed event schedule yet. It went to the printer yesterday and I got prints back today. So you can look around the library in the next week, and that program will be out, but I can describe some of the things that we're doing. So we usually have discussions, and we have 4 this year. We do the book giveaway in December, so it'll be December 5th. And that's where we do a grab and go book giveaway where they get a copy of the book, and then someone usually does treats or a craft or something in those, so that's enjoyed. And we have a couple of radio programs on KMUZ, one about art and one with Melanie Zermer, which is just on their regular news program. We'll have a documentary this year. Salem City Club is one of our partners, and they're doing a program on genealogy. And I guess I should probably have said this is the book. I brought copies for everyone, and you can take these, and then if there's any extras, they can just land on my desk.
There's the book.
Oh, it's
The Inheritance of Arcadia the Diva.
Oh, okay.
so
By
it
Loretta Cordova, who also is a really great young adult writer. This is not. for you.
Good to know.
It's enough.
And so getting back to the program, we have so this book is about a woman. Well, how about if I read? It's not pretty good. Would you like to do me that favor? So you're short.
So it's like a family epic story, which I love. I love being a tragic family epic. About the matriarch of the family is Arcadia Divina, and she has come to the place where she knows that she will be dying, and she calls her family together to give them each their inheritance. This is a piece of magical realism, and so their inheritance is something unusual for each of them. It sort of magics them each in a different way and gives them a different gift. And then she does move on. And then there's a very quick patch where 7 years pass, and now these gifts are starting to affect the family members in different ways. And something is hunting and killing members of the family. So 4 of the surviving family members traveled to Ecuador, which is where Orquídea Divina came from, to try to seek out the secrets of her very complicated youth, to understand what's happening to the family and what this mysterious force is that they are battling with. It is really tragedy filled and action filled. It's a really fun read. I will just, for me, I loved the audiobook. I thought the audiobook reader was fantastic. I read half of the book in this way and then switched to the audio and really appreciated the audio reader too. So consider that as an option.
Sounds great. So that synopsis will make some of the programming more. Makes sense.
Will there be increased copies of?
Oh,
the book on?
Yeah,
On the
20 or 150. Yeah.
Oh,
there's-
wow.
There's a shelf upstairs with the new books, a Salem reading shelf. So it has this book in Spanish, English. There's also book kits, 2 book kits that book clubs can pick out, then check out. And then there's digital copies on Cloud Library and
There's
Libby.
a there too.
Yeah, we buy extra ones so that people don't have to wait very long in
Mhm.
line.
So what was the criterion determining this book? I mean, did you look at number of different books or was it what?
Oh, I think we read 15 books and we probably looked at a list of almost 100 titles that meet the programmatic criteria and then also met what we wanted to do. So we've had books that had Hispanic characters before, but we've never had a Hispanic author or a book about Hispanic characters. So we decided that was time to do that.
That was kind of what you were looking for.
Yeah, so then that gave us a slice of the overall book pie to look through and we came up with, I forget what the other one was.
Poetic.
Yeah.
By Elizabeth Acevedo was one of the finalists, and then also Mexican author, who's the author of this book. But the final decision is always made by the public. We put it out as a survey and allow people a few weeks to vote, and Davina was the one that came out on top.
So back to programming, that's where the genealogy comes in for Salem City Club. Then we're having a craft, which is folding ribbons into roses. Roses, plants, hummingbirds are very strong and thematically in this book. And we have an Ecuadorian history lecture. And the one that we're very excited about and we're so grateful to Sarah for is a lecture on the art of reading magical realism.
Oh, wonderful.
By a Willamette professor who is just over the moon about it. So we're so fabulous. So thank you.
All I think is good.
Connections are important.
And one of our book discussions will be in Spanish, and it's going to be called at La Casita, which is in Northeast Salem. And then we're having 2 deaf cafes, and I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it's something that was developed in England. And the idea was that our cultures don't ever talk about death, and people want to talk about it. So let's invite a bunch of people, have cake and tea, and talk about death.
You might want to connect with the Deaf Cafe that's already been going in Salem for like 3 years.
Yeah. So
Who did you talk to?
I think Hannah has interacted with them.
Oh, my husband and I started it, really don't know anything about it.
I thought I had understood that she had a conversation.
Okay,
Yeah, so we'll have
anyway,
one suited to the library and one both in English and in Spanish. So we've got more Spanish programs this year, which is good, and the book is also given to all of the Salem Kaiser high schools. And so they were able to tell us how many Spanish they wanted and how many English. So watch for that. And so the reason I'm here to talk about Salem Reads is that for the last 8 years, Lab has supported that program. And so I'd like to ask again for your support at the 500,000 or at the $5,000 level. And that's what you've done in the recent past. And to speak a little bit about the budget of Salem Reads, it's about, our budget this year is $43,000. We are able to secure about $15,000 in sponsorships. And we receive a $9,000 grant, which is the transient occupancy tax, that supports our marketing efforts. And then the foundation, if Lab chooses to give us $5,000 again this year, then the foundation will pick up the balance, which is about $15,000. And it's a project that we started, and we're very committed to it. And we feel like it has a lot of strong aspects for the library, for outreach, for good community conversations. And so we remain committed to it and making it a sustainable program. And our very significant partners in it are the library and the library staff. And so we continue to commit to having us use the building and the minimum amount of staff to produce the programs. So that's part of why I'm here. And then I also just wanted to give you a little snippet of the foundation budget this year and what we'll be providing to the library. So the first is the $43,000 for Salem Reads. And then this year was the first year that we've gone over $100,000 in support for other things that are needed. And the way we choose those things is that Bridget and I have conversations all through the spring about what's needed, what's covered in the city budget. The foundation will fund enhancements to the library, but we don't fund operations. So that's kind of our little piece of the pie. And from that, Bridget and I determine what budget I'm going to present to the foundation board. So this year, we increased our advertising and marketing to $5,000. We do the hospital date packets, which are a little bag with a board book and an invitation to sign up for a library card to all the newborns at the Salem Hospital. And yeah, it's sweet. Yeah, and those are in Spanish and English also. And then we have adult programming, book club kits, that's to buy new book club kits. And we have music line item. This year, we're doing $30,000 in e-content support. So that's so people can check out books on Libby and Cloud Library. And I understand the demand is far higher than that. And so we can't meet the demand, but we can help with it a little bit. We also usually pay for equipment, like we purchase the new reader desk that's up at the front, that's more permanent and it works better for staff and that it looks nice. And then we do Sprinkles grants, and Sprinkles grants are grant program, a one-page application that any library staff member can apply to the foundation and for anything they want. And it can be a wild idea, it can be something that might fail, it doesn't matter, we want them to have a little bit of money to do some innovative things with. And so some of those things have been very interesting. So as her last grant request was for a bubble gum machine, like the old fashioned kind, that has a little acorn inside of it, and the tab members write kind thoughts in there and in book recommendations. And so once a day, I guess, the teams can come in and get a token to use the gum machine and get a kind word and a book. So if somebody comes up with great ideas like that. And so that, it's that kind of stuff. That's what
Madman.
Sprinkles grants, the sprinkles on the cake kind of thing. We've also purchased a PlayStation and a Nintendo Switch for video games for teens, lanyards for the children. It used to be first graders got lanyards, but now all the kids can have lanyards for their library cards. So they don't lose them, which helps a lot, but they have to have library cards. And we've done various carts and things that help volunteers and staff and also patrons. Our three most recent sprinkles grants that just closed last week were for the Oregon Black Pioneers exhibit, which will be arriving tomorrow and be set up sometime over the weekend, I think. And an art kiosk. We're working out some of the logistics of that one, but the idea is to have an art kiosk where people can flip through the art that's in the city and in the library, and that has been in past exhibits. And then carts for patron use so that people don't have to struggle around the library with tons of books, especially with children. So those are some of the sprinkles things that we do. The city librarian has a discretionary fund. Now the sprinkles grants that purchase the lanyards for the children, that's become a permanent line item on our budget. And so that's another nice thing about the sprinkles grants, is they can come up with some meaningful things that we want to continue funding. And then also we put a significant amount into outreach this year and left that very open to the communications and the outreach committee about how they can best use that. And then we also do staff education and volunteer recognition. So that budget comes to about $103,000. So I like you to have an idea of some of the things we're doing and how we come to those conclusions. I did submit the formal request with the questions that you asked for. And I sent Lois and Bridget the link to our 990, which is you can see it online. I mean, it's about 40 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not worth.
And I forgot, I was gonna see if we could get copies of that request form, and I didn't.
I have it. I can make copies and bring it back.
That would be helpful. That would
Okay.
be helpful.
So how much?
There's 7 of us on the board. Yeah.
Just for purposes of moving this forward, I would move that we approve the request from the foundation. I had a few questions, though. There's somebody wants to second it.
So you have to make it an action item
I
first.
think that should be an action. I would like for everybody to look at the request form, so that's the way we do things.
Okay, well, the reason I did that was I know we have the request form on here. We've already approved the form itself, but I want, at least for purposes of discussion, talk about the proposal that we received. And so the best way to do that was to move the proposal forward. If you want to table that to another part of the discussion.
I think that's what we'd like to do. So then we will have a copy of the actual request for people to look at. Okay.
Okay. So I'll run it, when we're done with me, I'll run it, yeah.
But I did have a question. I guess that was what I wanted to do this as part of the discussion. So I'm unclear in terms of, you said you don't fund operations. What does that mean?
That means that the foundation expects the city to fund the library in all of the ways that it needs to be funded.
Okay, I don't want to split hairs here. I'm assuming that means staff. Because that you're like funding Libby, for example, and that to me is an ongoing operational expense. Well, I don't see how you can differentiate.
Well, that is, it's interesting that you picked that one, because that is one that we have discussions about, is that technically it's not, and it's in the gray area of being an enhancement. And so there are occasions when we decide to do certain projects that are sometimes deferred maintenance, or like I'm thinking of the cash counting system. That didn't work for anybody, and it ended up that the foundation funding that whole rejuvenation of that system made sense with the agreement that the city would maintain the licenses on it. So to us, operations means lights, staff, carpet, the basic things like that. And where we come in is, as an example of the seismic retrofit project, is that there were parts of the seismic retrofit that could not be funded by the bond. And those aesthetic enhancements were things that we chose to fund that just couldn't be done otherwise.
But you can fund infrastructure projects, and you have done those out in that.
Yeah. So those are capital projects as opposed to operations.
Yeah, again, as you said, it sounds like it's a little squishy sometimes, so it's like case by case, but so I was curious. My heart.
Yeah, well, I guess to me, it's not really squishy, but it is case by case. And so that's, like the retrofit was the one capital project of my tenure. So I've been here 8 years. So that's, I don't have experience with other capital projects, but capital is different than operations.
And one more question, and I don't need it. So could you, with your funding, support a one-time staff position?
No. We've discussed that, and we've done it in the past. And it is, we kind of real, yes.
Again, I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since you're not gonna be here for the whole meeting, this is a little out of place, but I think it's really relevant. So, when, Counselor Barney, who is the counselor from West Salem, engaged with, regarding the history of the West Salem Library way back, and you provided some amazing information to her that I was part of. And she brought forward to me a question about, is there a way that the history of the West Salem Library could be displayed in some way? And I was thinking about a sprinkle display, and what I thought about was with what the Willamette Heritage Foundation was doing with their Salem 2.0, like they're doing it like online kind of thing. But I guess I just want to share her enthusiasm for that being picked up. And I've been kind of thinking about Kylie Kyle and the Willamette Heritage Center, but when I heard you speaking about the Sprinkles grants and some of the things that you've done, I just kind of wanted to have the opportunity to at least like share that and without any recommendation, without anything further, just as an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the way we fund sprinkles grants are they come from staff.
Right.
And they're not directed in any way by the foundation. And we also have set it up in a way that any staff member can apply for a sprinkles grant, and we've been careful not to have that come from an administrative perspective, that it come from any staff member, and that they choose to, they make sure that they talk to and arrange with all of their colleagues.
Sure.
So that their project doesn't have unexpected impact on other staff members.
So I think Bridget hearing about Councilor Vining's interest, and there may be staff who have worked at the West Salem Library in the past and currently who might, you know, be interested in partnering on that. I'm gonna stop. I just kind of felt like, since you were here and since ideas were coming out, that I didn't want to miss the opportunity.
That also could possibly be something that lab could support. So, they could put somebody, maybe, for learning, could put in a request.
Great, thanks.
That also provides some input for that. We are going to add a page in our website, kind of highlighting the history of both the main and West Salem, and so.
Will you let her know that, or are you in communication with her on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions for Kate? Okay, if you could make some copies, that would be that would be great. And when do you have to leave? Francine, did you say you had, oh, okay, sorry. All right, so let's move on. We will
Thank you very much for.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
coming, everyone. So good to see you. And the foundation does so many good things, and it's a great support board of the library to collaborate with, and we look forward to doing that with you in the near future. Okay. Thank you. All right. So now the terrace report, and I have some things to talk about. Okay. So, number one, we have some board openings. We have 2 board openings. And that's something that we would like to, we want those filled. So if you know of people who want to be good board members, encourage them to apply. They can get the form on the city's website, and I think it's on the library's website as well. Remember that we are really trying to increase our diversity, inclusion, and equity, and that's a piece that we need on this board. So let's think about that. I want to encourage, especially the 2 new people, Valerie and Matthew, that this board is an inclusive board, and if you have agenda items, feel free to send them to me. And the chair does set the agenda. You will need to send a copy to Bridget, and that's how we do things. And I really want to encourage you to do that, because this board is about, you know, us, and we sort of represent the community to the city council. So feel free. And if you're like, oh, I don't know if this is, you know, right, then we can talk about it. And be sure to send it has to have a copy to Bridget.
And CC me.
Right.
CC me. I need the information.
Okay. Because we want that free flow of information, which is what libraries are all about. They're about the free flow of information. on many levels. Also, David and I talked a little bit, and we have some goals for the year. We want to fill the 2 open positions. We want to really have cooperation between all the library support boards. So there's a foundation, which is kind of a fundraising kind of thing. It's 503c. And then there's the Friends of the Library, which does the bookstore. And then there's us. And we are, have to do in public meeting law, follow all those things. But we advise the city council on library issues. And I see that as we are the community that goes to the city council to say, this is what the community wants. We are not part of the library. Our city librarian is not on our board. He is, or they are, the secretary. But we are our own thing. Also, we want to kind of set up a transition for when some of the older members, like myself, will be off the board in June.
Senior.
What?
Senior.
Senior members. The senior members. So, we want to kind of be thinking about leadership positions. The other thing I want to talk about is I want this to, I have always, since I've come on the board, this is my 8th year. I want this to be an active board. I don't want this to be a board that just kind of is a board to be a board, because it has to have a board, it's in the city, whatever it is. I want us to be active. I want us to spend some of our money for the good of the community, for the library. I want to advocate for the library in the sense that we let people know what we do, speak positively of the library, support all of our librarians, all of the staff. And that's part of what we can do as this group. So that's my report. Any questions? Oh, also, if you have any ideas of goals for what you want, next. Yes.
I would just add, you did a great job with the presentation and nice overview of what we get. I think for some of the new board members, it's confusing sometimes to kind of identify what the different roles are of the different boards, because they sometimes seem, and that's kind of why I was kind of asking some questions. Our role is, we don't have a fundraising. Our role is really policy development and policy recommendations. We are appointed, by the mayor and the city council to kind of represent their voice here on library issues, but we don't, except for this fund of money that we have, we really don't, we don't raise money on behalf of the library. The foundation of Friends, that's really what their role is. And Friends, as I understand it, raise a lot of some of the operational support that goes to the library, and then the foundation, they don't.
Fundamental operation.
Not fundamental. Programmatic. Thank you. Again, that's a little hair splitting. The programmatic kinds of activities, and the foundation does a lot more of the kind of, and she talked about some of the infrastructure stuff. Again, kind of identifying that there are some fine lines there, and sometimes some gray. But really, the difference is, we don't get involved in fundraising, and they don't get involved in policy. And sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge, but that's kind of their area, and we have our area. So as we've talked about, we're looking for opportunities where we can kind of all meet, talk about kind of what are all of our visions for the library. I think talk a little bit more about that a little bit later.
Yeah. now we will go to the foundation report, which Sarah is our liaison.
I stole all my thunder. Share the information about the new sprinkles grants. No, we covered everything that we're talking about. We also talked a little bit about, the possibility of getting together the three groups.
What was the general mood about that?
People are in favor of the idea, but understand the logistical constraints, and especially because of the public, meeting law and how it would happen, and also that the sense that maybe Friends wasn't able to participate, and if that would sort of defeat the purpose. But open to it, but it's just wondering how it's gonna function.
Okay. So open,
Yeah, definitely open.
open with questions.
I'll just open and, open
Yeah.
and saying, how are we gonna do this?
Mhm.
Have it be useful.
Okay,
Considering the numbers. Yeah.
okay. Any questions? For Sarah?
What are, I'm sorry, what are the restrictions other than having to like have a notice that it's open to the?
Well, I think what I'm understanding is that the initial, desire is just to get together in the same room and have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
But if we're gonna, and ideally have it be more friendly, social kind of thing, but if we can only function as a public meeting and we have to be on Zoom or whatever,
Right.
does that mean we have an agenda and then there was discussion, maybe have a facilitator?
Sure.
So it's just,
Yeah.
what does that look like if we can't come together, just socially?
Sure.
Madam Chair, may I address this?
Pardon me?
May I address this as legal advisory board? So public meetings law comes into effect when you have a forum. So if there's not a quorum of this board that is going to be present at the meeting, or a discussion of matters that ultimately will be related to the board's functioning, then the public meetings law doesn't come into place. So, for example, if there was a subcommittee of this board, whose function it was to engage in dialogue with the other support boards, and that subcommittee is just a member of people, not a forum, and then there's no further communication about the information that was exchanged, and it was reported back to the body as a whole to then take further actions on and use that information to develop the policies and goals of this board. That wouldn't violate public meetings law. It's if there is a forum, either at the time of that meeting, or would you come out of that meeting and then communicate with the rest of the board or additional members of the board, not in a public setting to the point that it gets to a forum, which is what we talked about, a serial meeting. That's when you start implicating the public meetings law and violate it.
So what if we were to do just simply a holiday party?
So if it's a holiday party, there's a discussion of things that are ultimately is going to be that information is going to be used later to discuss the policies. It was literally just to get together and tell me about yourself, purely social gatherings don't need to be there. But if it's going to parlay into a, tell me what your board does, oh, that's interesting, here's what we do, I can see how that we could be working together on this and that, and we should do this together, and then that information is going to shape anything that this board does. That's the slippery slope where it becomes problematic. So if it literally is just a social gathering for you all to like get to know each other, and you're not discussing your roles and functions of your individual boards or foundations, purely social functions are fine. It is really, really hard though, when the reason you are having a social function is because you are members of the Library Advisory Board and the Salem Public Library Foundation and the Friends of the Library, to resist that natural inclination to talk about the work before.
So again, just so that I understand kind of where the divine line is, let's say, for purposes of discussion, a foundation sponsored a holiday party. If we as a group attend, then it becomes a public.
If you attend as a group of 10 and you discuss the work that you're doing and exchange information,
But
that is, that
if we don't sponsor it, another group does. If we attend,
So far.
we
Yes,
still
if
have,
5 of us show up, it's still a forum.
doesn't matter who sponsors.
But then you also have to talk about library business.
Yes,
where it shows.
yeah.
not just
Oh,
library
right.
business, but information that could then be utilized to shape anything, a recommendation or an action of this board. That information that's exchanged in a group of 10 or a forum, that needs to be done in a publicly noticed meeting.
And again, a publicly noticed meeting, are there different standards of publicly noticed? meetings?
Yes, you need to have an agenda so people know what is going to be
So
discussed.
they're
in
here.
public.
So we have to have an agenda, and it have to be publicized, and we have to make it available.
However,
People,
if it is limited to just for less, like if it's a limited number of people from lab,
Mhm.
that would be at the
Have more
December
people
6th.
go and
Right,
just wait
exactly.
until our next board meeting. to talk
Yeah,
about it.
sure, yeah, that sounds like a
the
great.
traditional way that boards and liaison with each other in a way that it's either like was done here, where you have a representative to the Salem Public Library Foundation, and they bring the ideas there, and the foundation, they do it like you're doing, and it's all done in a publicly meeting forum. If you want to have it be a social gathering, then it can be a purely social gathering, as long as it's understood that not a single, that it is not a discussion, it is a social gathering. If you want to have something along the lines where it's hybrid of a social gathering, where there's also an exchange of ideas, you got two options. You either need to have a delegation that is not a quorum, be the liaisons for the board, and then they bring that information back to the board as a whole with no intermediary, or you have a public meeting, and it can be that where it's introductions and things, and you can have food. You can have food, you make every one of your meetings, everybody can have. There are boards and commissions that I've been part of along the way where every meeting is seriously is a buffet. And I think Lois can talk about, there's times where baked goods used to be a regular thing of the library. There is no rules about how informal this meeting can be, other than you need to follow the Robert's Rules of Order. And you need to have an agenda, and it needs to be publicly noticed. You can't have alcohol on the ground. So if you want to eat dinner while you are meeting and things like that, knock yourselves out. So it can be that you can bring them in, you can have food and stuff like that. But if it's going to be a conversation where there's more than a forum and it's about things that are in effect because of your role on the library advisory board, then you need to publicly notice it. People need to know what is going to be occurring, so you have to have support of an agenda, and the public needs to have an opportunity to participate in the meeting.
Well,
Could we just not keep going on that, because it is one of our discussion items? Okay, thank you, Mark.
That was great, thank you.
Now we added this, there, I don't believe there's a Friends report, because the Friends right now are, kind of, overwhelmed, I think, with some stuff going on with them. And so, I think they had, I hope, they had a very successful book sale, so that's okay, good. I would like Francine for our information, to tell us about her testimony that she sent into the city council.
So, you may remember in our last meeting, we spoke about the September 18th work session that city council is doing regarding the 2024 budget. And, my discussing how I felt, there was an opportunity to tell them the actual money value
Mhm.
to the community of what the library does. So, so it was, there were no in-person, well, from the public, no in-person opportunities to comment at the meeting, but I did send the letter that you got to the city recorder and mayor and actually individually to each of the city councilors. I received responses from 3 of them,
Oh, wow.
like, yeah, thanking me, being like, really? Like $1 million and 35,000 people? That works out. Somebody, Councilor Hoy, not Mayor Hoy, Councilor Hoy, did the math and said, that means a certain number of people per day. You know, so they really, they paid attention to it, and I think I'm glad that the idea of how to put it forward to them. What I didn't have at that time, that Bridget, that I had mentioned last time, asking Bridget for information about checkouts, meeting room use and hours, computer use and hours, all of this stuff that's on the second thing that you probably have as a stapled paper. I did not have that available, but and didn't think it was going to become available, but Bridget did, with the assistance of several staff members, she was able to put together an example from both July and August about various numbers, which are really compelling and could be reworked in terms of the the American Association of Libraries, what's your library worth? Now, I had shared with Scott Archer, the deputy city manager, that I know somewhere in Washington or Multnomah counties, when you get your checkout slip, it itemizes
On it. Yeah.
what it saves you. And I found I've been going around trying to figure out which library that I use up there does this. And I finally found it's by Beaverton. So I sent it to him. And then he told me that that is actually going to be implemented here. And he sent me a copy of a checkout slip that itemizes it just like it does in Beaverton. So I wonder if where that is at with you, because I think that really shows our patrons. Whoa. And it also is it validates some of this data that I provided to council as well. I would love to see if it happens here on the terminals. I'm always thinking like, how do you do stuff rather than what, you know what I mean? I have the big ideas. I have like the little ones. What if there was something on the terminal that actually encouraged people to print their receipts? Because right now, I know with most people probably just put no receipt, no receipt, no receipt. But I think that would really greaten the impact of that information. So where is that now with implementation here? Because I had the sense that it was already being done from what Scott Archer sent me.
That's correct. So at the self-checkout, when people check out at the desk with a person, when they receive the receipt, it'll tell you the total of money that they saved. Currently at the self-checkout stations, when people go to check out themselves, we're unable to copy that onto that machine. So now, you told me that it was being implemented at Beaverton. I'll follow up with the person there to see what system they use, because I believe we both use the same
I
one.
talked to them, it's something like begins with a P.
Yeah.
What?
Polaris.
Polaris.
No,
Okay, because
that's something that's not a SOMPAS system, and so David, our IT liaison, did look into adding that feature on our current systems, and it's not available. It's an enhancement request via our vendor, which we would need to pay for, which we do not have funds for. I can get you a quote and see how much it would be, but
Like 100,000, you think, or?
It requires reprogramming their system, so that you, like, whatever they charge their tech over there, like the time of the project, so.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I love this idea so much that like, I want it to work.
Yeah, maybe we can fund it. I mean, if it's not. It's sort of, when it was a one-time.
Yeah, right.
I can follow up with our, I think like liaison and see how much it would cost to have that. Sure.
So the other thing that was, that came up in the course of follow-up on this was, Counselor Barney was asking about, and I thought this was really interesting. With the no overdue fines and all, she wondered how is that working with the library of things where people are getting kayaks and whatever, and the returns on that and power tools and the accountability, and she was interested if the library is actually losing money, a lot of money on these, and I think she would appreciate hearing from about that.
Is she talking about late fees or like? if
No,
they lose the-
She's talking specifically about what about very expensive things that are now available to be checked out, like drones, kayaks.
Cultural passive.
Well, no,
The friends,
and power tools.
buy all that. Am I right?
The friends purchased the culture pass and then the,
But
all of
like the sewing
library-
machines and
That was purchased through a grant
Oh,
that
great.
was done 2 years ago that we finally implemented. That was like a $43,000 grant. So all those items are purchased through that. grant.
Okay,
Um, currently, the things that we purchased are coming from foundation. They gave us $5,000 to spend each year on purchasing new items because we already knew that we weren't gonna be able to keep up with making sure that like if the kayak was lost to purchase a new line.
Yeah.
So we've been purchasing items based on when they come lost. And people still get charged the full price of the item. They don't return it.
Okay.
If they damage it, they get charged for the
Just
full
like the
price
book.
of the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're still accountable in that way. As far as like if they return it a couple of days late, that we don't charge
Right.
for. But yeah, all those expensive items came from that grant. That's awesome. Yeah, and there's a full report I can share out with that whole process and how it was implemented. And do more about it.
good. Thank you so much, and I did my best to try to speak to the people who are gonna make these really tough decisions about even the hours of operation, and when you think about the programming that goes on here, and how it's going to impact teens and all for safe places, so if things go back to closing really early, and it must be a heartbreak for you and your staff to be going through this. And the fact that you've done such a beautiful job at the library with all the programming that's going on right now, within the context of this, I don't know, it was phenomenal.
We have a wonderful team.
Yeah.
Any questions for Francine? Thank you, Francine, for all your work, doing all this figuring, and I didn't know, Matthew, did you? I wasn't sure.
Draft, a new draft.
Oh, I didn't. I might have gone in my junk mail.
Yeah.
You gotta put Camp and Fran in there. Camp and Fran.
But anyway, that was,
I had to keep trying better check my junk.
it was the crucial piece of work that Francine did, and we really thank you for doing that. And I think it was really good information for the city council, it's making some hard decisions. I'm so sorry, I forgot about the city librarian's report.
Yeah, so, you all have a copy in your agenda, and if you have any questions regarding it, we've been keeping our, number of visitors, of card holders, a little summary. We said goodbye to Robin Saunders, who was a long-term staff member. She has 31 years of service here, and she got sent off in big fashion, and we already they're missing her so much. Yeah, we're working on lots of things. Collections, we just recently added the Salem Reporter to our online resources, so people who are here in-house can use it for free. We also added a new subscription of magazines based on patron requests. We had over 200 people in attendance to the South Asian Community Dance, which there's some photos there for you to see. We had the Navy Bath Quintet, which had over 100 people in the audience. That was very well attended. We currently have the Dia de los Muertos altar upstairs for people to bring in items and share the memory of their loved ones. We're getting our front doors replaced by the end of the month, so staff is really looking forward to that. Youth services team created 2 welcome videos, one in English and Spanish, to help kind of let people know of all the resources and great things about the library that they can do with their library card for outreach events and also for school visits. And yeah, we're celebrating the freedom to read right now, get them book. And doing lots of wonderful things. Thanks for all of your work. Yes. It's not just me, it's all the wonderful staff.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I had a really nice conversation with Bridget was it last week? I don't remember when it was, but one of the best listeners I've ever talked with. Unbelievable. Really good.
A quick question.
Sure. Sure.
So I'm curious, how much money does the Friends and the Foundation provide? Is there a line item?
We do have records of that, and I think I don't have the number on top of my head. I think they should.
No, I didn't think you did. No, that's fine. But I mean, you submit a request to them, or is it as needed and you just kind of budgetarily identify it? Or how does that work?
I know staff will do the request for both the foundation and Friends, but like Kate and her team, they compile a number and then they work with me to figure out how much to put into each line item. As for the Friends, they do the same thing at the beginning of their fiscal year. They'll come and be like, okay, this year we're gonna give $5,000 to the library, and then they'll work with us to see what are the needs, what programs can we fund. Currently they're funding the Hollow Clean Drive Show event that's happening at the end of the month. That's all funded through their donation.
And the reason I bring this up is that other communities, I mean, just to follow up what Francina said, it's important to show the private investment that people in this community make, that it's not only taxpayers here in Salem, but people are putting their own money into that. I think it's important to show city leaders. I worked in a community where the Friends that I was involved with did an annual presentation to the city council, showed them what they checked. So this is how much is going into, and they were doing like 1,000. So that was, and then I think to leadership said, that's a pretty significant investment. So those are, I think, kinds of things that'd be helpful as we continue to have conversations with leadership about this.
I had just a quick question, Bridget. I asked about our funds, our last funds, and I got some printouts of things, and there's 2 items that I have questions about. Would that be something to talk to you about, or the county? Yeah.
I might be able to answer which questions do you have.
One of them is supplies $168.91, and it said no project listed. So
Which page is that?
I don't know. I didn't. I print my stuff on use. Let's see. I don't know if it's in here or not. Maybe it is.
What date was?
Oh, okay, here it is. It's on this page. Oh. Okay. And then
Which
there was
page is it
another
on the
one,
list?
on-
Explain the limitations and-
I'm kind of a stickler about finances, because I have this thing like I don't want anybody else to use our funds. There was another one where it said something like a credit card, and I was like, what the heck? I don't have a credit card. Oh, other special payments. $263.
So that was for your project. Okay. Well, that was for one of number one meetings. Was that for the seed library? 260. Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what it
I
is?
think it might have been like, remember how you funded like the seed library? So we needed, so we had to find a way like for her to pay the vendor, so we used the city credit card and then it got reimbursed back in.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
I didn't think we gave that, I know we did, so we're thinking it might be the seed library.
Mm-hmm,
$300.
yeah,
Oh, maybe, okay.
and it was a split payment.
Was it $300?
Mm-hmm, I believe
Okay.
so. It was less than
Okay.
$500.
Then we know that. Okay. This is the plan. Thank you for remembering me. Thank you. Let's start a discussion items. And maybe we can move, let's do talking about the foundation projects under the action items. So we'll move that down to action items, okay? Support board's possible meeting update. Okay, so, we have what Mark told us about public meetings, and, we did have one meeting, David and I, with, Sonia and Kate and Jim Montgomery, who I think used to be the chair of the foundation. And, so we set a date for December 6th to possibly have a meeting of all the boards. In the meantime, there's a lot of stuff to think about. I mean, there is the thing about like, it's a public meeting and, or do we want to just have a social, which to me, well, I have opinions about that. I feel like if we're gonna have a meeting, we should talk about stuff. I mean, why get everybody together if you're not gonna, talk about lighter stuff? So, we have another meeting, with the foundation. David and I and Sonia and Kate. We want to do something with the foundation. And maybe we will do something with just 2 or 3 members of our group and 2 or 3 members of their group. But we're gonna continue to talk about it, and we will bring that back to you. Does that sound good?
I have a quick question. For the agenda for public meeting, does the agenda have to be specific, like topics of discussion, or could it just be? Like, are you allowed, with Robert rules where, are you allowed to crosstalk or have? I mean, does it have to be like a certain amount of decorum in it, or can you just have like an agenda that says open discussion and allow crosstalk?
So, no, the agenda has to inform the public as to what's gonna be discussed at the meeting, not every single, but, that there's gonna be a discussion, there's gonna be a report from the librarian, that there's gonna be a report from the Salem and this, and then if they write something in advance, that would be there, but if they don't, it won't. It doesn't have to be every single thing that they're gonna cover in their work. So the public needs to be informed of what's going to occur at this. And if it's known that there's gonna be a discussion on certain topics, then it should be there. And so it's it's so that information and decisions are being made in a public forum. And the public is aware of what information and decisions are being made so that they can decide whether or not they want to be attending. So can you say general discussion on a variety of things? No, you can't say that. That doesn't tell the public what you're doing. You gotta be a little bit more specific. So it might be introduction of the members, discussion of the functions of Salem Friends of the Salem Library, discussion of the functions of this, discussion of inner entity collaboration. I mean, just, and then some things, some specific things they're gonna cover. So that they know what it is you're gonna get on, and so that from that, they can look at it, would be those things. Now, if you're getting way far afield and it's not on the agenda, like all of a sudden you put these things in, now you're gonna be talking about capital improvement projects, which are, I mean, it's some point you gotta say, well, wait, that's outside the agenda. Let's come back and bring that together next time.
It's a great question. So it sounds like we should have a smaller committee meet and decide those things so that all of us can be a part. Because why have a meeting with everybody if you can't talk about what we're gonna be doing? Am I right?
Yeah, that's what.
The only other thing that I will say as you're thinking about what these meetings are gonna look like is I invite this board to look back at the Salem Revised Code. I want to say it's chapter 12 or 18. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 18. I think it's 18. And your bylaws. It specifically set out the functions and powers of this board. And when you're looking at what your relationship is going to be with those other entities, you still have to state that is what you, as an extension of the city of Salem, as the Library Advisory Board, have the authority to do. If you're going beyond that, you can't do that with the capacity of being the Library Advisory Board. So just keep that in mind.
I just say, I appreciate this. I know this is gonna be the minority view, but I don't have a problem having a public meeting and scheduling it and, developing an agenda and inviting friends and foundation, and we can easily develop an agenda and have some discussion during that. I don't think there's anything that, and I understand private entities may have difficulty operating in a public setting, but I just, what I don't want to do is try to kind of figure a way around it. I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's just do it.
Right.
I don't mind doing a public meeting and, shining the light, and if the public wants to watch how we discuss kind of the priorities for the library, discuss what each group does, then that's great. But I understand that, that there's, I think, some reluctance about it, and there are some restrictions as Norm described it. So it does also, on the other hand, make sense to do a smaller group. I just don't want to do the smaller group as kind of a workaround. And because ultimately, I think if we want to have a public meeting and invite all the stakeholders, then we should have a public meeting with all the stakeholders. Anyway, that's my.
No, I agree with you. But how do you write an agenda if you haven't, if you haven't talked with them and know what that's the only reason I suggested having like that smaller group, because I'm fine with it also, but if we have to stick to an agenda, then I don't know. I'm so new. I don't know.
Vice Chair, correct? Might I make a suggestion for the sake of moving it on? Might I suggest that you see where you get doing it as a small group, and if you get to a place where you feel there's a roadblock in achieving what it is ultimately achieved, and then explore a publicly noticed public meeting. I think you might find it more efficient to go down that road, because that has been my experience. So.
That's stuff for discussion, that makes sense to me. I mean, we do have a group, that met. And, talked about things. And there are questions and there are, restrictions. And it seems like, that group is gonna meet again possibly next Tuesday. Just David and I, Sonia and Kate and Jim. It seems to me like a small group with 2 or 3 members of lab and 2 or 3 members, or however many members of the foundation wants to come, because it doesn't matter if they have a quorum or not. We could start talking, we could start the conversation. And I mean, we haven't done this in the past, so I understand that there's questions, but it seems like I would like to explore it more with the small group, bring it back here in November, and then we can talk some more about it. What is that? I mean, I don't think we have to have a motion, but I know it feels like it'd be cool to have like a fun thing and everybody just kind of, talking and everything, but I mean, we're here for the library. If we're gonna get everybody together, it seems like we want to really talk about how can we work together for the good of the library. So, are you okay with that?
That's fine.
It's, okay, so at the next meeting, we'll talk about it some more. After just the foundation and that's talk. All right, I'm gonna move on and without objection. Okay, we already talked about K3C project update. And then a funding ad hoc committee. Francine, did you want to talk about that? Oh,
Well, that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this thing about lab funding ad, it was supposed to. Somehow it got chopped off. It was supposed to read lab funding ad hoc committee. And that was, I put that forward for last month's meeting because I thought we needed to engage like certain people who are going to go forward with this as that.
yeah.
And then so, but
Lucky you. For those of you who don't know, I was chair for like 4 years. 5 years. But that is also something that's on the strategic plan, is to look at funding opportunities. So that might be something that even the staff is looking at. I don't think that's all right. It is.
it is,
It is.
yeah, it is. And looking for, other
ways of.
and that's kind of what started this. And I almost wondered whether Coraggio Group, the way they've engaged with, the library in staff with bringing about the initiatives in the strategic plan, that may there to be some help with this as well.
With the funding.
Yeah,
Are looking at funding, so. That's kind of down the line. So now we're at action items. This is where someone would make a motion about somebody would, there might be a motion made about the.
I move that we support $5,000.
Can I second or do I have to wait?
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead. Doesn't matter. We all do. but-
Yeah, is there any discussion?
I'm always particularly careful when we're talking about the expenditure of money. Is there a form, because I've heard you say, is there a written request?
Yes, yeah, we
Can
have.
I recommend that now that there's been a motion in a second, that somebody might make a friendly amendment and clarify that the request be as set out and reference the specific document, if it gives a dollar amount and what it's supposed to be used for, so that the friendly amendment that's actually then referenced in the minute, especially when you're dealing with a substantial amount of money.
Mhm.
So just that we reference the submission that.
I would recommend that there be a friendly amendment to the motion that the motion read that we support the request from the Friends.
Foundation.
Salem Public Library Foundation as for
As stated in the
Yes,
board
yes.
funding request.
in the amount and for the purposes set forth in the request, and then reference the request.
So moved.
I can make the motion.
As a friendly amendment, so moved.
Of course not.
Yes.
He doesn't make motions. Would you want to?
I think I moved it, so can I make an amendment to my own? motion?
Well, actually, I asked for accept the amendment, the first and the second accepted.
I think someone has to say that.
Well, no, I said so moved as recommend, can I say as recommended by?
I think we
You feel
should state it.
comfortable?
I think we should state it.
Okay.
Cool.
As a friendly amendment, I would, if the maker and the second adapted, that we recommend the funding request as submitted by the foundation on our application form
For the amount
of
of,
$5,000.
No, so
For
now-
the Salem project. Thank you.
So now we have to vote on the
So
amendment.
you need to have a second. for the
Sorry.
I
amendment.
second for the amendment, second the amendment. Okay. And the first have and the second accepted, then.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have to vote on the amendment.
Oh,
We're
geez.
really gonna get
Our rules.
like Robert rules crazy, which I think is crazy, but let's vote on the amendment. And does everybody approve the amendment? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Now back to the main motion. Everybody in favor of the main motion with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay.
No, the Robert's rules.
She does.
Can
Hello, I was raised on Robert's.
we also make it, can I make the?
No, our family had family meetings. And we used Robert's rules. And the story, the story goes that I was like 8 years old and I wanted to say something. And so I raised my hand and my dad said, "You have the floor." And I said, "I don't want to sweep the floor." So we used Robert's for
And
anyway.
here you are, they'd be so proud.
Here I am. He would be proud.
Can we make a recommendation though that henceforth to clarify this, that we have a standing item on the agenda for requests, funding requests, just to deal with some of the legal issues so that we can, as part of the process, when we get requests, and we may not get them monthly, at least we'll have a item on the agenda that we can address.
Okay.
That's just a recommendation. Just
Yeah, just like a standing.
just a standing item on the agenda.
Okay, I don't, do we have to vote on it?
No, it's just a, it's a record.
And the item on the agenda, what, I'm sorry.
Just for
Funding request.
for funding.
A funding request. Go ahead.
So that would just be like, I mean, that's kind of what an action.
It is, but I just want to make sure so that we have the opportunity that that we review these monthly, that we have a list monthly, that we know that we have a placeholder in the
Okay. All right, any other miscellaneous items?
Question, for the board openings, is there like a place where the board openings are like advertised? I know that like when I was looking, I had to like go onto the city website to see like what committee spots were available or open or like, and so is there a place where people, other than the city site, or is there something put out, maybe saying, hey, we have board opening?
Maybe the Salem reporter would take that.
And the library has done it periodically through social media. So that's, yeah,
uses it to put it on social media. Something you want to advertise.
I have to bring it to our communication. Yes.
That would make, that would make.
Is there any restriction on how you
Past,
can
when we
put the
needed
word out?
board members, the library did promote it and we got a lot of people.
Yeah.
I might just.
Great idea.
And that's the front office has a process that they utilize for, boards and commissions, appointments and advertising. I'd encourage the board through staff to engage the front office, on that. Way, if they have specific ideas that they'd like to utilize to make sure it comports with the policies in the front office. Policies out.
What do you mean the front office? What does that mean?
I'm sorry, the city manager's office. Forget that we all refer to the city manager's office and the city manager's staff as the front office.
So you're saying. Like I would contact the city manager's office and say, we have these vacancies, can you advertise them? Is that?
My recommendation, I'm sure the front office is already aware of the vacancies on the board and commission. I'm saying if there are certain ways that you think would benefit in promoting it, the vacancies and soliciting people to apply for the vacancies, that you work with staff to have that communication with the front office and then they'll report back to you.
Okay. I think we are good ambassadors for that too, for boards we're on, communities, associations, that kind of thing. Also, I think it would be good to have it on library stuff, because people who read library Facebook pages and all that, we care about the library,
Right.
so that kind of makes sense. And I will contact the front office and see what they can do. So good question, Matthew. Yeah,